I took some time off from my man and unintentionally shmexted with multiple men. However, when I returned pleading for another chance, he spat in my face, and what he said left me utterly stunned. I need to share this story because it's consuming me. Perhaps writing it down will help me cope with my actions. Maybe someone else will read this and avoid making the same mistake I did. I, a 28-year-old woman, was with my ex, a 31-year-old man, for 5 years. Let me describe who he is. He's a trauma surgeon, the kind of doctor called in during critical situations when other physicians are unsure of what to do. He can open a chest in the ER and revive a heart with his hands. I've seen him come home covered in blood, eyes hollow from losing a patient. Yet he would still make dinner for me because he knew I had a tough day. That was him, steady, unwavering, a solid rock in every storm. We met during his second year of residency. If you know anything about surgical residency, you understand that 100-hour weeks are typical. He would often fall asleep standing up in our kitchen, but he always made time for me. I work in luxury real estate, having switched from a corporate marketing job 2 years ago. The income was incredible. I'm talking about $50,000 commissions on single deals. But more than the money, it was the lifestyle, showing penthouses to tech CEOs, yacht viewings in Sausalito, and private jet tours for properties in Tahoe. My Instagram shifted from hiking photos to champagne glasses against city skylines. That's when things began to shift, or maybe I started to change. My new work friends were other agents, trophy wives, and trust fund kids who partied every night. They would look at my boyfriend's pictures and comment, "He's cute, but does he take you anywhere nice?" Or, "It must be tough dating someone so busy." The truth is, he did take me places, just not the ones they meant. He would take me to a small ramen shop after his 24-hour shifts because the owner's son was a patient he saved. He would take me hiking at 5 a.m. because that was his only free time, and he knew I loved watching the sunrise. He would bring me to medical conferences where I'd see rooms full of doctors hanging on his every word. But none of that was Instagram-worthy. It wasn't yacht parties in Mykonos. The breaking point came after an unusually hectic week. I had just closed a $15 million home in Pacific Heights. My client, a crypto guy, threw a party to celebrate with bottles worth more than most people's cars and models flown in from LA. Everyone was telling me how amazing I was and how I deserved to celebrate. I came home at 4 a.m., high on cocaine, something I had never done before, only to find him passed out on the couch in his scrubs. He had waited for me. There was a small cake on the counter. He remembered it was the anniversary of my first big sale. Looking at him, I felt trapped, as if my youth was slipping away while he was saving lives, and I was squandering mine waiting for him to have time for me. The next morning, after he left for another shift, I texted my friends, "I think I need to be single for a while." They were thrilled. Finally, it was time for a hot girl summer. When he came home that night, I was prepared. I had rehearsed my speech about needing to explore who I am outside of us. I expected him to fight for me, to plead, to promise he'd work less and be around more. Instead, he just looked at me with those steady brown eyes and said, "I just pronounced a 6-year-old dead 2 hours ago from a car accident." I spent 40 minutes trying to revive him while his parents watched. I should have stopped there. I should have realized what I was doing, but I was so focused on my script, on my need for freedom, that I pushed through. "I need space," I said. "I need to experience life." He stood up, walked to the kitchen, poured himself a scotch, drank it in one go, then turned to me and said, "Okay, what do you want me to say? If you want to go find yourself, go. I'm not going to beg someone to stay who doesn't want to be here. I have enough fights on my hands trying to keep people alive who actually want to live." He left that night and stayed at the hospital. The next day, when I came home, his things were gone, just like that. 5 years packed up in boxes while I was at work. My friend said he was being dramatic and would come back. They always do. One of them laughed, especially the kind ones, and said, "Give it a month." God, I was so foolish. Update 1. 2 months later, I thought I'd check in since some of you asked for updates in my DMs. These past 2 months have been everything I thought I wanted. I'm living my best life, as my friends say, VIP tables every weekend, trips to Vegas, Miami, and Cabo. I've received more male attention than I know what to do with. Let me tell you about some of the men I've met. A venture capitalist who flew me to Malibu, had shmext with me on his balcony overlooking the ocean, then had his driver take me home because his real girlfriend was arriving the next morning. Then there was a married hedge fund manager who had me over his desk in his office. I found out later that his wife was 6 months pregnant. There was also a club promoter who passed me around to his friends like a party favor. I let it happen. I was exploring my sensuality, right? And a tech founder who filmed us without asking. I noticed the camera halfway through but didn't stop him. He posted it online, and I still get recognized sometimes. My friends cheered me on, saying, "Get it, girl. You're living your best life. He could never give you this." But here's what they don't see. The emptiness after each encounter, how I need a minimum of 3 drinks to feel anything, the UTI that won't go away, the pregnancy scare last month. Thank God it was a false alarm. The way I can't sleep unless I'm intoxicated. Through it all, I've heard nothing from him. Not a text, not a call. His Instagram is gone, his Facebook deactivated, as if he erased me from existence. I learned through a mutual friend that he got promoted, the youngest department head in the hospital's history, and bought a house in the hills. He's training for an insane ultramarathon. He seems good, she said carefully, different but good. I wanted to ask if he had mentioned me, if he had asked about me, but I knew the answer. My friends say I'm winning, that I'm living the life every woman wants, that he's probably miserable throwing himself into work because he can't handle losing me. But late at night, after the parties end and the men leave, and my friends go home to their empty apartments, I think about that cake he bought for my anniversary, a small gesture. He probably picked it up between surgeries, exhausted and running on fumes, but he remembered. None of these men even know my last name. Update 2. For months after the breakup, I messed up. I messed up so badly, the loneliness is suffocating. Not the being alone part. I'm surrounded by people constantly. It's the feeling unknown. These men, these friends, these parties, none of it means anything. I started reaching out to him last week with a simple, "Hey, how are you?" Text, nothing. Then, "I hope you're doing well. Read receipt," no response. "Can we talk?" Left on read. I called and went straight to voicemail. I called again and again, must have left 20 voicemails over 3 days. Each one more pathetic than the last. "I miss us. I made a mistake. Please just talk to me. I'm sorry. I love you." Nothing. So I did what any desperate, foolish woman would do. I reached out to his colleague, Christina. We had been friendly when I was with him, and she agreed to meet for coffee, though she seemed hesitant. "How is he?" I asked, trying to sound casual. She studied me for a moment and said, "He's incredible, actually. Just published a paper on trauma surgery techniques that's gaining international recognition, bought a beautiful house in the hills, running the department now, and saved the hospital's trauma certification single-handedly. Is he seeing anyone? Why do you want to know? I miss him. I made a mistake." She laughed, actually laughed. "A mistake? Is that what you're calling it?" "Christina, please, I know I hurt him." But she leaned forward and said, "Do you have any idea what you did to that man? He loved you through residency, through 100-hour weeks, through losing patients, through everything. And you threw him away for what? Instagram stories and crypto bros." I was confused. "No, you were selfish, and now you're lonely. There's a difference." She stood up to leave, but turned back. "You want to know how he's doing? He's doing what he always does, saving lives and not looking back. You should try that sometime. The not looking back part, I mean. God knows you'll never do anything worth saving." That night, I decided I would see him in person and make him understand that I had changed, that I realized what I lost. He would have to listen if I was right there in front of him. I knew his schedule. He always worked Thursday nights and got home around 2 or 3 a.m. I waited in my car outside his new house, which I found through public records. It was beautiful, modern, with clean lines and floor-to-ceiling windows, the kind of place we had dreamed of buying together. I waited until I saw his car pull into the garage, gave him a few minutes to get inside, then walked to his door. My hands were shaking. I had downed 3 shots of tequila in the car for courage. When he opened the door, I nearly gasped. He looked different, leaner, harder, as if someone had carved away everything soft, leaving only sharp edges. He was still in scrubs, blood on his shoes. "What are you doing here?" His voice was flat, devoid of emotion. "I needed to see you to explain. It's 2:47 in the morning. I just spent 14 hours in surgery. Go home. Please, just 5 minutes. I know I hurt you, but I've changed. I've realized what I lost, what we had." That's when it happened. He looked me up and down, taking in my club dress, my smeared makeup, the hickey on my neck I had forgotten to cover. His expression shifted from exhaustion to something else. Disgust, pure and unfiltered disgust. He spat in my face. I was too shocked to move, too shocked to speak. His saliva landed on my cheek, my lips, the ultimate gesture of contempt. Then he spoke, and his words shattered what was left of my soul. You let strangers inside you to find yourself. Congratulations. Now lose yourself somewhere else, because I'd rather die alone than ever touch what they used. The door slammed in my face. I stood there, I don't know for how long, his spit still on my face, his words echoing in my mind. When I finally made it back to my car, I couldn't stop shaking or crying. I had never seen him like that, never witnessed such coldness in his eyes. This wasn't the man who used to hold me after nightmares, who'd kiss my forehead and promise that everything would be okay. But then again, I wasn't the woman who had believed him. Update 3. 2 weeks after our confrontation, my life has completely imploded. Remember that crypto guy whose house I sold? The one who threw the party that set all this off? His wife found out about us and the 3 other agents he was with. She's divorcing him and going after everyone involved. It turns out that recording someone having shmext without their consent and posting it online is illegal. Who knew? The tech founder is facing charges. My face, my name, it's all over the local gossip blogs. Luxury real estate agent in shmext tape scandal. My broker fired me, and my license is under review. The friends who encouraged all this? Ghost town. I can't get anyone to return my calls. But the worst part, someone sent the articles to him. To my ex Christina texted me that he saw them and said to tell me, congratulations on finding yourself. Also, he's accepted a position at Johns Hopkins and leaves next month, 3,000 miles away. He's not just moving on, he's moving away, erasing any chance of running into me again. I've been calling in sick to my new job, cocktail waitressing at a club. How the mighty have fallen. I've been drinking myself into oblivion. Last night, I went through our old photos, 5 years of memories. There's one from his residency graduation. He's in his formal scrubs, exhausted but smiling, while I'm kissing his cheek. The caption I wrote said, "So proud of my baby, saving lives and stealing hearts." There's another from a medical conference in Boston. I went with him, sat through 8 hours of surgical presentations just to support him. In the photo, he's presenting, commanding attention, while I'm in the front row beaming. God, I had it all. I had a man who loved me, respected me, and envisioned a future with me. A man who saved lives during the day and came home to me at night, who looked at me like I hung the moon, even when I was in sweats and no makeup. And I threw it away for what? Bottle service and men who couldn't even satisfy me. My therapist, yes, I finally got one, asked me why I really left. The real reason, beneath all the nonsense about finding myself, is that I was insecure, deeply, pathetically insecure. He was becoming this incredible surgeon, saving lives, making a real difference, while I was selling overpriced houses to tech money. I felt small next to him, insignificant, so instead of rising to his level, I dragged myself down to the level of people who made me feel bigger. People who were just as shallow and lost as I was. How does that make you feel now? She asked. Like I deserve to be spat on. She says I need to forgive myself, that everyone makes mistakes, and that I'm still young and have time to build a better life. But she doesn't understand. Some mistakes you don't come back from. Some things you break can't be fixed. He's going to Johns Hopkins. He will become one of the best trauma surgeons in the country, save thousands of lives, and find a woman who deserves him. He probably already has. And me? I'm going to serve drinks to people like the person I used to be and remember when I had everything. Final update. 1 year later, I wasn't going to update again, but I need closure. Maybe you do too. I'm writing this from my studio apartment in Oakland. It's small, but it's mine. I work 2 jobs now, bartending at night and as an administrative assistant at a medical clinic during the day. The clinic job doesn't pay much, but being around healthcare and people actually helping others reminds me to stay humble. I've been sober for 6 months. It's been hard but necessary. I attend AA meetings twice a week and have a sponsor who keeps me accountable. I learned through LinkedIn that he's thriving at Johns Hopkins, published 3 more papers, and is speaking at international conferences. There's a photo from a medical gala. He's in a tuxedo, accepting an award for innovations in trauma surgery, next to a woman in a stunning dress, another surgeon. According to the caption, they're not touching in the photo, but the way she looks at him? I know that look. I used to look at him the same way. Good for him, I mean that. Last month, I was visiting San Francisco for an AA meeting when I unexpectedly ran into someone. The mother of that 6-year-old he couldn't save, the one from the night I asked for a break. I recognized her from the news coverage. We talked, and she told me how he stayed with them for hours after his shift was over, how he cried with them, and how he still sends them a card every year on the anniversary. He's a special man, she said. Whoever is lucky enough to have his heart better treasure it. I couldn't tell her. I couldn't share that I had it and threw it away. I just nodded and excused myself to cry in a Starbucks bathroom. But the real closure came 3 weeks ago. I was in Baltimore for a job interview. Yes, the universe has a sense of humor. The position was at a medical nonprofit, and they flew me out. I was having coffee in the Inner Harbor when I saw him. He was jogging, earbuds in, completely focused. He looked good, healthy, happy. The hardness I had seen that night at his door had softened into something else. Confidence, maybe peace. He stopped at a red light, and that's when our eyes met across the street. I raised my hand in a small wave. He looked at me for a long moment. No anger, no disgust, no recognition of who I used to be to him. Just nothing, like I was any other stranger on the street. Then the light changed, and he kept running. That's when I knew it was really over. Not when he spat in my face, not when he moved across the country, but when he looked at me and felt nothing. I flew home that night, didn't get the job, probably for the best. Baltimore is his city now. So what's the lesson here? What's the moral of this story? Maybe it's this. Some people come into your life to love you. Others come to teach you. He came to love me, and when I destroyed that love, he taught me the hardest lesson of my life. If you want to find yourself, don't lose the person who already knows who you are. If you want to explore, don't abandon the one who made you feel safe enough to dream about exploration in the first place. If you want more, ensure it's actually more, not just different, because different dressed up as more will leave you with so much less. I'm in therapy. I'm sober. I'm building a life that's small but genuine. I'm learning to live with the weight of what I did, who I hurt, what I lost. And he's out there somewhere, saving lives and being loved by someone who knows his worth. Someone who sees him come home covered in other people's blood and thinks, "This is my hero," instead of, "This is my burden." I had that once. I had a hero who loved me, and I traded him for villains who didn't even know my middle name. This is my story. Learn from it or don't, but know this. When someone loves you through their toughest times and puts you first, even when their world is falling apart, that's not a trap, that's not boring. That's everything. And once you lose everything for nothing, you'll spend the rest of your life understanding exactly what those words mean. Edit. To those asking, no, I don't want him back. That ship hasn't just sailed. I set it on fire and watched it sink. I want him to be happy. I want him to save lives and come home to someone who deserves him. My penance is living with the knowledge that it could have been me. Edit 2. For the woman in my DMs calling him abusive for spitting on me. No, just no. Spitting on someone is disgusting, degrading, and absolutely wrong. But I showed up at his house at 3 a.m. drunk, after cheating on him with multiple men, after ignoring his pain, after throwing away 5 years like they meant nothing. He didn't hit me, scream, or threaten me. He showed me exactly what I was worth to him in that moment. Was it right? No. Do I understand it completely? Edit 3. This is my last update. I'm going to delete this account and focus on moving forward. To those who shared their own stories of loss and redemption, thank you. To those who called me every name in the book, you're not wrong. And to the one person who's been saying there, him, I know you're not, but on the off chance you are, I'm sorry. You deserved better. I hope she gives you everything I couldn't. Edit 4. Someone asked what I'd say to him if I had one more chance. I'd say, thank you for the spit. It woke me up to who I'd become. Now go save lives and forget my name. You've earned that. Story 2. Together for 3.5 years after taxes, I make $25,000 a year. He makes $75,000 a year. We split everything 50-50, except for groceries, as he admitted he spends significantly more than I do on food. I'm trying to contribute fairly, but I'm struggling. I think if I made $50,000 and he made $150,000, the difference wouldn't feel so significant, even though he'd still make 3 times more than me. But I'm so close to broke that any expense matters. I've genuinely tried to cut back. No new clothes for a long time. I often look like a mess. I reduced my phone bill to $20 a month and managed to qualify for a low-cost health insurance plan. We essentially never eat out anymore, and I haven't had my hair cut in over a year. But it's still not enough to make a difference when my income is so low, and I'm splitting costs 50-50 with someone who makes triple what I do. Lately, I've turned down many date night or short trip ideas because I simply don't have the money. Even for small things like bringing a bottle of wine to Thanksgiving dinner, which he ended up paying for. I feel like a downer, and I can tell he's disappointed when I say I can't do something. I want to talk to him before this jealousy turns into real resentment, but I'm unsure if it's fair to ask him to split expenses more equitably. TLDR, I make $25,000 a year. He makes $75,000 a year. Should I ask him to split bills more proportionately instead of 50-50? Edit. Thanks, everyone. Many discussions and forums suggest that 50-50 is the only fair way to split expenses, so I feel much better about bringing this up. We have a monthly relationship check-in coming up, so I'll discuss it then. Update. At our monthly relationship check-in, we both brought up how we split expenses. We decided to sit down and review our incomes and current shared costs. In the end, we agreed to split proportionately and discussed a timeline for combining our finances when we get married. I'm still on the lookout for a better job, but for now, I'm really happy with our discussion and decision. TLDR, we talked and mutually agreed to split expenses proportionately. Relevant comments. Glad things worked out for you. It seems silly that you had to cut down on necessary things like clothes and haircuts due to having to pay too much in bills when the other person earns a lot more. What did you agree on? 70/30ths or 60/40ths proportionate to our incomes, which aren't the exact numbers I shared in my original post, but are close. I was a bit vague for privacy reasons. I'm so glad I read your post. It didn't sound like some of these finance split posts, as he seems like a great partner and probably just needed to understand the strain this method was creating. Your relationship sounds pretty healthy, and I'm glad this worked out. You're exactly right. Putting all the numbers on paper made it clear that it was a long-term issue we needed to address, and he immediately worked with me to change things. Was your fiancé surprised that you couldn't afford what he could? It is surprising that he didn't recognize that a 50-50 split was unfair and unsustainable from the start, and that you mentioning you couldn't afford to do things didn't make him question why. Two things mainly. First, for a while we weren't going out or spending much due to the pandemic, so I had enough money to cover expenses and then some. Second, I lost my previous job due to the shutdown, which paid more than my current position. Unfortunately, that was with a small business that no longer exists. I've tried to get back into the industry on my own, but even now, it's not easy. But wasn't your fiancé aware of your reduced income and job loss, especially when you couldn't afford the wine? This is all on me. I was trying to downplay it and not make it obvious that I was struggling, hoping I could secure a better job to fix it. Plus, it's not like I was missing bill payments or anything. I should have been more upfront about it, and that's completely my fault for not discussing it sooner.